my name is Kat Faller, and I'll be giving a presentation on behavior analysis and education. Behavior analysis, or ABA, is the science of behavior. In education, we often see it as the School-Wide Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, or SWPBIS. You may also have heard it referred to as PBIS or PBS. They are all systematic, multi-tiered approaches. As you can see from our figure here, which starts at Tier 1, moves up to Tier 2, and eventually Tier 3. In school-wide PBIS, an example of applied behavior analysis implemented at a scale of social importance, the author stated, PBIS meets each of the 5 features used to define applied behavior analysis: applied and behavioral, analytical and conceptual, technological, effective, and generality. Implementing successful and effective school-wide PBIS. Strong functional core features need to be established. It needs to contain a fluid integration of systems. It needs to measure student progress, and that measurement and data needs to be used for data-driven instruction and decision-making. And it needs to establish an implementation team, which should be comprised of administrators and outside support. Students with emotional behavior disorders, or EBD. These students are at high risk. According to the school-wide systems of positive behavior support, implications of students at risk and with emotional behavior disorders, annual reports to Congress on the implementations of Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and longitudinal research report that more than half of students with EBD drop out of high school, and less than half of those who remain graduate with a diploma. Additionally, articles stated that students are significantly more likely to struggle academically. Furthermore, 1/5 of students with EBD are arrested at least once before they leave school, and more than half are arrested within a few years of leaving school. Among those who have dropped out, 70% have been arrested. Students with EBD also experience the highest rates of unemployment, substance abuse, homelessness, and mental health issues. So they also introduced this idea of the prevention paradox, and the idea of this is completely what lines up with school-wide positive behavior interventions and supports. As long as that's done with fidelity, we are essentially preventing a lot of these issues from occurring. We can integrate social, emotional, and academic supports to provide preventative measures. And the natural consequences of those are listed here. You have lower suspensions, lower office referrals, and higher attendance. Another really cool study in 1995, a study was implemented at the Sportsmanship Curriculum Interventions. Sharp et al. Published the effects of sportsmanship curriculum interventions on generalized positive social behavior of urban elementary students. The study found an increase of positive social skills, an increase of class time on the activity, increase of on-task behavior, and an increase of generalization of target skills. And those target skills would include positive social skills such as leadership and independent conflict resolution. Bully prevention should also be built into school-wide PBIS. For example, they use the stop, walk, and talk method in intervention, and teachers systematically taught the students how to react as the bully, the victim, and the bystander, explicitly teaching them these skills through systems of interventions. The students were able to say stop if there was bullying taking place, and then walk away, and then if it still continued, they would talk to a trusted adult. School-wide PBIS at the classroom level. A study found that teacher efficacy was highly correlated with teacher burnout and effective classroom management. Teachers who had effective classroom management had a significantly lower chance of burning out. Classroom management that was effective had these following things. It had positively stated classroom rules and expectations. Effective instruction took place. Reinforcement of appropriate student behavior took place. They recommended here the use of a 4-to-1 positive to negative reinforcement ratio that established a tracking system of reinforcement system. These teachers also had good responses to problem behavior, and they established tracking systems to keep track of all of that. Positive reinforcement. Payne and Dozer stated that a provision of positive reinforcement may be more effective than provisions of escape, which was the functional reinforcer in that study, and contingent on compliance, as long as the schedule of reinforcement is dense. So they found that positive reinforcement was effective in reducing problem behavior maintained through escape. It also increased compliance, and it was most successful with the dense schedule of reinforcement. A meta-analysis of non-contingent reinforcement, NCR, found that it was effective in decreasing problem behavior, that functional reinforcers were more effective than non-functional reinforcers, and that a thinning schedule produced fewer problem behaviors. Problem behaviors, while less frequent, may still be at the clinically significant level. The use of praise as antecedents or a Tier 1 intervention. This should be integrated into a school-wide PBIS, and classroom teachers' goals throughout the study for behavior praise frequency. So the teachers were asked to create essentially SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based goals. They found that this was incredibly helpful in making sure that the teachers provided enough student feedback, especially positive feedback, to these students. And they also found this to be most effective when a minimum frequency rate was set by the teachers and that the praise given to the student was specific. A Tier 2 intervention that's been proven to be pretty helpful as well is the check-in, check-out method. A student comes in, they check in with the teacher or a trusted adult administrator, someone in the building. They get a student point card. Generally, they're working towards something or an end goal in mind, maybe a preferred item or activity. And as set times throughout the day, the teacher will provide the student with feedback and mark or give them some sort of point on their point card. At the end of the day, they have a checkout where the child can turn in their sheet or their tokens or point card in order to obtain that desired or preferred activity or item. Eventually, this will be faded out, the teacher feedback and the point card. So what we don't know. What we don't know right now is how these factors will all perform together. Because each of these was conducted individually, we're not sure how these are going to mesh together or how to implement and combine these supportive practices. If the similar or promising results will take place with combinations of these interventions and findings. And we also don't know the effectiveness of these interventions on larger and more diverse sample sizes. The majority of these studies were conducted on elementary school students or within the elementary school setting. We need a lot more studies around school-wide PBIS in middle and high school, and we need to know how that's going to change and look as those students age and are in developmentally different places. So what can we do about it? We can make sure that we are implementing school-wide PBIS that has social, emotional, and academic supports. At the classroom level, we can increase our 4-to-1 ratio to make sure that we're providing students with that positive feedback. We can make sure that we're implementing school-wide PBIS with fidelity, that we have supportive systems in place, that we are tracking positive and inappropriate behaviors, and that we're promoting and creating opportunities for generalization. Administrators can consult with PBIS programs to arrange for training and PDs for teachers and staff, to develop functional systems of implementation and data tracking, and develop those look-fors to support teachers in implementing the school-wide PBIS. It's also helpful if they conduct walkthroughs to ensure implementation with fidelity, to highlight staff implementation and using specific praise when they're doing that. It's also great if they provide opportunities for staff to share what's working, any challenges that they have, and use DDI to work towards solution-based results. Researchers. It would be incredibly wonderful and helpful if we can find researchers that will implement these interventions and conduct more studies with middle and high school students. Here are my list of resources that I've used throughout this and the variety of studies. All of my graphics were found on Google as well. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this informative. Thanks. Bye.